So I know we've got a few questions for you, actually, James. I'm going to let Louise start with them because we want to know some of the England team news. Take it away, Louise.
Yes, so obviously, James, we're interested as England face the USMNT on Black Friday tomorrow. There's a lot of talk, of course, over here about the game. Historically speaking, England actually doesn't do that great against the USMNT, but we'll see if that's different tomorrow. But the big question is obviously, I'm hearing, James, Olley, that Gareth Southgate's not doing too many changes, and that may include actually the number 9 up front.
Yeah, I think the whole Harry Kane thing was blown out of proportion. Really,
Of course it was.
He took it, as everything is with England at every major tournament. Anyone sneezes, it's an injury doubt. But there's he took a heavy tackle at the start of the second half of the Iran game. He still played on for about half an hour. He came off. There were a couple of pictures circulating about him having some very light strapping on his ankle. He had a scan that was just very much precautionary because he's got a history of ankle problems, Harry Kane. So if there's any issue in that area, it was actually a sort of knock to his foot, like sort of lower foot rather than his ankle that he sustained. So he trained yesterday behind closed doors. He trained today. First 15 minutes in front of the cameras, and then he did the whole session with the team. So, yeah, I mean, Gareth Southgate pretty much confirmed that he's going to start at the press conference later in the day, and I think it will probably be an unchanged team. I have to say, I thought he might make one or two changes. ESPN, we interviewed him exclusively about a month before the tournament, and before that, in the sort of Nations League matches, he was talking a lot about the need to rotate. He's got a 26-man squad. England, hopefully, in his mind, will be here for 7 matches, and he feels that you're not going to ask those same 11 to play every game. But I think the manner of the victory against Iran, how well they played, particularly in an attacking sense, obviously scoring 6 goals and being so comfortable and in control until they sort of let it slide a little late on, that I think he feels that let's go and let this same 11 do it again. They've had enough of a break. We're in a period of the season, if you take it, in terms of the domestic season, where we're not looking at June, July, where they might be tired after 50 or 60 matches. I think he feels they're in a rhythm and let them go again.
What do you think the feeling is then, James, given that the US didn't win their first game? Do you think there's any type of different approach or mindset that they'll have going into it, knowing that the US need to get a result here?
Yeah, you know what, Kate? It's funny how one match can change everything, because England hadn't won in 6 games going into this, and there were a lot of question marks about the team's form and even the lineup. You look at players like Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, even Raheem Sterling, who were sort of being selected almost on trust, really, because of what they'd done for England in previous tournaments in 2018, in the Euros last year. But they hadn't been in good form for a while. But just the control that they had, and the vibrancy and the energy about them. Look, and also, obviously, having got those 3 points, they are very much confident and know that they've got a little bit of a fallback if something went wrong against the US, that they can still obviously get out of the group if they can beat Wales. So the pressure's all on the US, really, and I do think that will play into their hands, because we know that Greg Berhalter has tried to implement this possession-based approach. And I do wonder whether England might think, well, look, we can sit off them a little bit here, and with the pace they've got on the break, let the US make the running, let them go and try and, they've got to win the game, really. So I think England therefore could go either way with it, and that will give them a flexibility that should give them even more confidence than they already have.
I'm a little bit worried when it comes to confidence, James Olley, that Jordan Pickford might not be up for it just because he lost darts to a certain someone. Is that right?
I mean, probably the biggest victory of this World Cup so far, I think.
What was the score?
Tell us more about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was so. There's the last 3 tournaments, there's been a players versus media darts match, and it was my turn yesterday against Jordan Pickford, and 51-31. But basically my tactic paid off, which is, your ego thinks that you've got to go for the 20, right? But the next to the 20 is a 5 and a 1, and if you're not good, you're going to hit 7 or 3. I go for 16 because next to 16, there's 11, there's 8, there's 7, there's 19. There's a lot of margin for error down there.
Not just a pretty face, Kane Murray.
No, well, not just a face, not just a face. And I managed to hit 51. And he asked me before he stepped up. He said, "Why are you aiming down there?" I said, "I'll tell you afterwards." And he was going for 20, and he failed. So my only concern is that the morale has not suffered a significant blow that he will feel. He may, I hope he doesn't turn around to Gareth Southgate and say, "Look, do you know what? I'm not up for it now. Mentally, I'm not right. I'm not in the right place. Don't pick me. Give me a game off."
Okay, he's going to let 3 goals in, and it's going to be
no. He's making him sharper. He's making him sharper. He's strengthening. Yeah.
You could argue I gave him more of a test than Iran did. So
obviously you saw Jordan Pickford. Did you see any of the other players? And if so, let us know what the vibe was, what the morale seems like in the camp.
Yeah, we saw. I mean, there were a few. Kyle Walker did some other media. Luke Shaw was around. We saw Jude Bellingham as well. Do you know what? It's relaxed, and I do think one of Gareth Southgate's biggest strengths is he knows tournament football, and he's very acutely aware of how important the environment is. I think they've picked a really good base in Al Wakra, so it's essentially just sort of south of the main part of Doha. They've got a beachfront location. They feel they're away, but they don't feel they're in the hub of the city. I think they've got the base spot on. And you think about problems that England have had in the past with camps, where I remember in 2010 in Rustenburg, where everybody felt too isolated. It was almost like a prison cell, and they kind of got on top of each other, and those sort of cliques start to form, and the team starts to divide. It wasn't, Southgate's very mindful of those sort of things. And I think what he's done very well is make that adjustment with a very limited period of time between Premier League. Everybody's competing against, the vast majority, obviously, of that squad plays against each other every week in the Premier League. He's managed to sort of get them to park that, get their World Cup hat on, get their England hat on very quickly. And, no one's getting carried away. We all know it's gone for England in the past, but I think they've been undeniably really one of the most impressive sides. I thought Brazil were fantastic tonight, but, they're probably 2, 3, 4 the best teams at the moment in their opening game. And I think that's testament to just how relaxed they are at the moment and how well they've settled into the surrounding.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.